Hello, everyone. My name is Sheila Dunyu. I'm founder of Vero. We go around the world seeking small production, sustainably made wines and olive oils that are not yet in the US market. And we import them and sell them to businesses and consumers around the US. Our website is verovinogusto.com. So April is Earth Month. Friday is Earth Day. So it's fitting this month for us to be highlighting La Maliosa wine and farm and winery, which makes natural wines and organic extra virgin olive oils in Maremma, Tuscany. And today we're going to hear the story and the vision behind La Maliosa from its founder, Antonella Manuli, who's live with us from Tuscany, from our winery today. So, hey, Antonella, I don't see your
Yes, hello,
your video,
everybody.
I know
Thank
you're
you,
there.
Sheila, for having me, and hello to everybody.
And also with Antonella is Alex Smuckler, who's a friend of mine, a fellow American, a fellow woman entrepreneur who lives in Italy. She's been living there for many years, and she has a travel company, Alex Smuckler Travel. And Alex will lead this exploration with us today, talking and tasting with Antonella.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us.
And just a reminder that this event culminates our fundraiser for Ukrainian refugees. And with the campaign we've been running, the proceeds go to Antoniano, which is a wonderful charity with Franciscans and volunteers on the ground in Ukraine and Italy to help Ukrainian families in need. And if you wish to contribute to the campaign, you can buy the wine box that we have on our website, which includes this delicious Tarconte by La Maliosa. Or you can just go ahead and donate. We have a page on our website, Vero Gusto, where you can make donations. So thanks for everyone who's participating. I'm going to let a couple more the Zoom participants in. And if you have any questions while we're going through the talk and tasting, please just unmute yourself, or you can write it in the chat. Also, those of you on Facebook as well, we will be monitoring your questions. If you can, just keep yourself muted unless of course you're talking, so that way we don't have the interference. So I'll turn it over to Alex.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sheila. So I'm very happy to be here today at La Maliosa. And let's see, Sheila has just put up a slide to show everyone exactly where we are. So we're really in the southernmost part of Tuscany. There you are. And that's the Maremma. And that's where La Maliosa is located. And that is Antonella's farm and winery. So let's dive in. We're going to start from the very beginning with some history, and then go through how Antonella came to have the farm, and some of her goals and visions with the farm, both today and for the future. So before we get to the future, let's go all the way back to the past. I'm really happy to chat with Antonella today because we share a lot in common between tourism. Like Sheila said, I have a tourism company. I'm also from California, and Antonella studied in California, and we both obviously have a passion for wine. So getting to the very beginning, Antonella, tell me, where did you grow up in Italy?
Okay, I grew up in Milan, and then for some difficult circumstances of the historical period in Milan, actually, all my family had to move to Switzerland, because in Italy we had this period called the lead years, the anni di piombo, which were, there was a lot of terrorism, especially in the city of Milan. And at one point it became quite difficult for us children, especially, to have a normal life. So we actually were moved So I kind of feel some kind of, you know, similar experience. That's why I am so involved in this situation about Ukrainian refugees, you know, that like the one day you have a normal life and the next day you are somewhere else. So it wasn't, of course, anything that tragic, but it happened in my life that I had to leave in the middle of the school year and move to another country, not knowing the language or anything. And so when I was just turned 11, I moved to Switzerland, and I was there for a few years. And after that, the situation in Milan, especially, you know, because it was something really, it was involving especially the big cities, not really the countryside. Nothing that bad happened. But then after I finished my high school, I decided, you know, to try and experience abroad, away from a lot of this Italian stuff, which had not been a good experience for me in my youth. And so I moved to California for my university. I had a golf scholarship. So this was the main reason, not particularly because I knew anything about California, but I was adventurous and I had a scholarship. And it was a very, very nice experience for me. They were very, very nice years. I loved California. I loved my university experience. I had the opportunity to travel a lot within the United States, you know, doing my tournaments and stuff. And then when I finished my university, I came back to Milan, which had become a normal city by that time. And then I just, you know, stayed in Italy and started like a normal working life.
Excellent. And so going back to your time in California, because one of the big themes of the talk today is sustainability.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your time in California started to introduce you to the idea of organic farming and sustainability?
Yes, totally. I mean, completely. That was the beginning of the 80s. And I think it also was a very interesting time in California. I was always very interested in, you know, being outside in nature just by playing golf. I enjoyed very, very much environment. So there were a lot of ideas about, at that time in California, about organic, you know, eating healthy, organic, the environment, you know, preservation of the environment, which had not yet come to Europe. I think it was something that actually probably started, this movement probably started in California actually, and then spread. And I was definitely contaminated by that experience. Yeah.
Contaminated in the best possible way.
Yes, I hope so.
It's a good contamination.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes, I would say so. Okay, so after your time in California, you returned to Italy. You worked in finance for a while.
Yes.
Before then coming to the Maremma, the area where we are now, where you worked at Saturnia, the hotel with the thermal spa. And
yes.
What drew you to the Maremma area?
Well, okay, yes, my work experience I graduated in business administration, so I think it was perfectly normal path, you know, to start in, you know, finance or whatever, you know, entry-level jobs. And I didn't particularly know the Maremma. Actually, I didn't at all know the Maremma. And in fact, when I came here the first time, and I remember it was a very difficult travel, the roads, it was like, and I remember arriving at the Terme di Saturnia and sitting in the room and thinking, oh my God, you know, I mean, where am I? You know, I was kind of shocked by the whole experience because of course the Maremma then is not the Maremma that we have now. where, I mean, it was still a very, it was a pioneering, I think, also as far as tourism, especially you know, the entroterra, how do you say, the inland area, okay, was not developed yet. So you had this hot springs, which were becoming quite famous, but it was still in the middle of nowhere. And so no, I came there and started working in this hotel, and but I appreciated very much all the time since the beginning, like the beauty of the place, the nature. Like, I'm very sensitive to nature, so I liked that very much. I liked that it was very wild place. With everything was so authentic, and also for Italy that was very unusual, okay, because we are used to, you know, the art cities have always been so full of tourists, and you don't really have this feeling of authenticity. You have this mass tourism, you know, and you don't get the best part of the place. And for me, it was also a discovery.
Excellent. Yeah, I can really relate to that. So for those people on the call who haven't been to Saturnia and the Maremma, it's really known as kind of the Wild West of Tuscany, if you will. So it's very different than the postcard Tuscany, where you see the rolling hills and the cypress trees. It's much more wild. So this is a great picture that Sheila has just put up of La Maliosa and the vineyards here. And so you can see in the background some of the forests. You can see some of the different vegetation and the biodiversity here at the winery. So it's a very different kind of Tuscany than kind of the mainstream images that we see. So I understand being attracted to that kind of wildness, and I can only imagine what it was like when you first got here. Probably even more wild.
You know, not really. This is the good part, I think, that it really has not changed that much. There's good and bad in that. But I think, you know, this sensation of space, you know, sky, and like you can see for kilometers ahead is also something that reminded me a little bit of California, actually. Yes, so the beauty, and it's very, I think for Italy is a very unusual experience, because Italy is a crowded country. We have very few plains where people live. We have a lot of mountains that people are not living there, and the places are crowded, basically, okay? So it's very, very unusual. It's very unique to have this kind of experience in Italy, and also to be very close to like a big city like Rome, like in an hour and a half, you're in the center of Rome. So I think it's I mean, it's all of this combination, you know, is very unique.
Absolutely. So it's clear that you completely fell in love with the Maremma and fell in love with this area.
Yeah.
So after working for 10 years at the hotel, then you left and you started this winery. But I imagine it didn't just happen in a day or happen overnight.
No, definitely.
Especially here in Italy, where everything moves piano piano, very slowly. So can you tell us a little bit about that process and how you went from working in a hotel to having your own wonderful winery?
Yes, while I was here in the hotel, I was always noticing how there were, you know, the environment, the natural environment here is so powerful, okay? It's really powerful. I mean, it's one of the few places where you can still feel that nature is above you, you know, you're not controlling nature. And I was always noticing how there were no agricultural projects that would, you know, embrace this strength of this place, and produce you know, healthy products, healthy local products that were authentic and expressed the place. And so what I did, I said, okay, so maybe I'll try to do it. All this process took a few years. Also because I bought the land from scratch, which is something also very unusual, because I'm sure you are familiar with stories, you know, about wineries where you're always telling me, you know, my father, and in Italy is all about fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers, very unusually mothers. But anyway, it's all a history of patriarchy. And so in this case, I started from scratch, and of course, it was not easy. It also took quite a long time, and it's not finished. Because I think of La Maliosa as an agricultural startup. And when you have a startup, in this case, you need to follow the rhythm of nature. So it's not like you can go and do it in 2 years. You know, you need to respect the growing time of plants, to put it very simply. And so we're still at the end of the startup phase. I think if you start something from scratch, you need to take into account 15 years in order to have everything in production, and then more, you know, manageable situation. So.
And what was the year that you started La Maliosa?
Well, it took me a few years to just buy the plots of lands that I put together. I would say the first year that I really addressed production the first time was around 2009, 2010. And just to make some trials, but, you know, very small batches of wine to see, because on this land, I had a vineyard that is now 60 years old, about 60 years old. And so on this vineyard, we studied all the varieties that were typical of this area. And of course, it was our first trial of making wine from there, very small batches, just, you know, to experiment. But I would say my real lucky encounter that really defined La Maliosa was when I met Professor Lorenzo Carino in the end of 2012. He was a pioneer in organic, I would say, natural viticulture. And he helped me really develop La Maliosa really along the lines of making natural wine, of you know, expressing the truth of this land, and of course, you know, we brought all his knowledge and his experience into developing my viticultural project.
Interesting. And you met him here in this area?
No, actually, no. I met him, well, actually, no, yes. I spoke to him on the phone and asked him to come here, and because I wanted to show him, you know, this place. And he came, actually was interested by what I told him, and he came here. At the end, like it was December 2012, he was retiring from, he was a researcher. He was working with the Italian Ministry of Agriculture in Piedmont. Was from Piedmont. And he came here, and he really saw, in a way, he had the same vision. He could really, I think he really saw a place where he could develop a very unique project for making natural wine. He really completely saw the potential of this place. And so I started working with him. We planted vineyards in a very particular way, like we planted in the vines in the Albarello training system. I don't know how to translate Albarello. It's like it's a little tree, so you won't see the wires in my vineyard, because the vines, they stand up like little trees by themselves, which is a way of training the vines that is typical of the south of Italy, of very, very warm places. So also the look of the vineyards is quite peculiar. And the advantage, I think, for La Maliosa was to be able to plant from scratch with the idea of making natural wine. So all the vineyards were thought in the way they could be suitable for making the natural wine.
Okay, excellent.
Of course, the disadvantage is it takes a long time. I couldn't find the vineyards ready. So I needed to be very patient.
Of course, yes. Okay, and so you and Lorenzo together developed the Carino method, correct?
Yes, well, of course, the Metodo Carino is just a name to define the process that we use to make natural wine. It's because the idea was that we wanted to be transparent about the process of, to explain what we were doing, because in natural wine, it's really important, it's not just a way of saying that everything is happening in the vineyard, because the goal, in order to produce a natural wine, the very simple concept is you need to have the skin of the berries, it needs to be thick, okay? This because the thickness of the skin is a sign of healthy grapes, and usually less prone to problems, okay, when you have a thick skin, and in this way also you get, of course, the indigenous yeast that is very present, and it's easier to make natural wine if you have this kind of situation on the bunches, okay? In order to get this, you need to do some, things in the vineyards. This is why Lorenzo always said that it's not possible to make natural wine all the time and everywhere. It's just not possible. You need to have the right conditions. Some of these right conditions depend on the training of the vines, on the varieties that you are using in a certain place or not using. And of course, you need to have also the right climatic conditions, and of course, many other things, but I think these are the main things, basically.
Oh, but by the way, Kathleen Tyree, who's a vigneron in California, mentioned that Albarello is head trained. So,
how do you say that?
Head trained.
Okay.
Like Testa, head trained.
All right.
Excellent. So let's take some of this theory that we've been talking about with the Carino method and start by tasting our first wine. And that way you can tell us a little bit about how some of these concepts are showing up in the actual wine. So the first wine we're going to be tasting is the Saturnia Bianco.
Which one is the Bianco? You can see better than me. This is Bianco, right?
I believe so. Let's give it a try.
Let me try. No.
It's not. So we're just...
Did I take two reds here? This red, also this one, right? Just a second.
Just a moment.
I need to get the right wine. Just a second.
Okay, Antonella is gonna run and grab.
This is what the
Bianco.
label looks like. So, and Bianco means white, but it's really an orange wine. So, of course, it's made from white grapes. Brendan, you don't have any?
Antonella,
I can't hear you.
Okay, we're gonna start with the red, actually.
Oh, we're starting with the red. Okay.
Oh, nope, we're gonna go back to the white.
But I don't know where
The Cabo Tapo is. Antonella is just opening the bottle. We thought we had it here on the table, but it turned out we had two reds.
It's great just to even pour the wine sometimes like 5 minutes ahead of time, because with natural wines, I find, especially Antonella's, the flavor, the aromas will just develop and evolve.
Absolutely. Well, why don't I let you guys get started with the Saturnia Rosso?
Yes.
Instead.
And find
and Sheila and Antonella, you can talk through.
It should be in the kitchen. Sorry, but I had two bottles here ready, which were both red. Anyway, Saturnia Rosso. No, actually, we can start with the Bianco. Sorry about this technical. We found great. The glasses in the kitchen. We got it. I think we are a little bit daltonic here. Okay.
Sorry.
Here we are. It's actually white. Okay, now we got both of them. Okay, Sheila. This is Saturnia Bianco. What vintage do you have there, Sheila?
2019, because 2020 is still crossing the ocean.
Okay. So we make this wine the traditional way. It was always done in Maremma. As you can see, the color is a little bit dark. Here in Maremma, they used to call these white wines, they used to call it rugginoso, which means rusty, like rusty-like color, because the fermentation is done exactly like a red wine, so with the skins. It stays with the skins for about 3 weeks. The variety is Procanico. Procanico is a very, very old variety. It was already mentioned by the Roman agronomist Plinius. And it's coming from a vineyard of 35 years that's planted on volcanic soil. And this variety has evolved on volcanic soil. So it's a very, very nice marriage between the variety and the soil here for thousands of years. And it's blended with the Trebbiano grape. So it's two grapes, Procanico and the Trebbiano. Of course, we don't add any sulfites at all, no additives. We don't filter. Indigenous yeasts, and as we taste this wine, maybe you would like some as well, right?
Sure, yes.
Where is it?
That one there.
It's that one, okay. You know, this happens to me at the fairs. I say, I pour you some white wine and I pour the red one. This is old age, actually. So the characteristics of Procanico, at first you can taste, you can smell honey. It's a predominant, character. And like Sheila was mentioning, with natural wines, you need to leave it a little bit in a glass to evolve and speak with the oxygen. And in this way, you get, after maybe 5-10 minutes, if you leave your glass there and then smell again, you will get some of the herbs, a lot of, smell of like botanical herbs. This is another characteristics of the Procanico. The way we make this wine, we don't want the maceration to go over the variety. We want the varieties. This is in all our wines, La Maliosa wines. We want, the character of the vintage and the variety and the soil to come first. And we don't want the maceration to be overwhelming, okay? The maceration, of course, helps because as we don't use any conservants, like any sulfites, it's also the tannins, that stay with the wine are helping in aging this wine. Of course, it's a protection. So you will feel some tannins in this wine. What do you think, Sheila? Is there something you want to add? Or maybe you?
I often smell and taste ginger.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's good that you mentioned that, because that's also a characteristic of the Procanico. Yeah. Of course, here it's a blend. So this wine, I think, is doesn't exactly match the profile of Procanico, because we also have Trebbiano, which makes everything a little bit softer, and, it's not so vertical on this. But still the Procanico comes out because it's a grape that has I think a big personality. So, but here in this wine, it's a little bit softer, I think.
And what would you ideally?
I had a cheesemonger come visit with me this week, and he brought all sorts of cheeses, and we tasted several of your wines with the cheeses, and there was this really good sage cheddar cheese. And that was an incredible pairing because of the herbs in the wine paired. It's like the wine had this sort of slight taste of sage, which then you also tasted in the cheese.
I can imagine that'd be really wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing about this wine, I think, is also very good with fatty food, because it has this quality of drying up your mouth. So it's also very good for, like you said, with cheeses. Also, merluzzo.
Cod.
What?
Cod.
Mm-hmm. Codfish, perfect. Fatty it's like fish. The perfect combination, fatty fish. And is also very nice to pair with creamy desserts, actually. Like in Italy, we have the mascarpone or the tiramisu. It's perfect.
Mm. I can imagine that would be great.
Yeah.
Because you can definitely feel the tannins in your mouth, a bit of the drying effect. Yeah. So pairing it with the fatty fish or creamy dessert, I think it would be really lovely.
Yeah, and this wine is the real traditional wine here in Maremma. So this part of Tuscany is more traditional for white than for red wine. And this is not just a very historical grape. This is also a historical wine because in the way we make it, we really respect the tradition of Maremma.
Okay, I would say let's jump to trying the second wine, which is the Saturnino Rosso.
Here. So we have two blends. We just tasted the white, and the Rosso is a blend of all our red varieties. So here we're speaking of Sangiovese, Ciliegiolo, and Gray Cannonau. Cannonau is what you call in French Grenache. So I'm sure you're all familiar with this variety. And also we have the wine from the press. Okay, so is a true mixture, I would say, of all our red varieties.
Excellent. Let me get some as well.
So the fermentation here is done in big cement tanks, and for about, I would say, 4 or 5 weeks. The way we ferment is always long and slow, because this gives the complexity to the wine in the end, contributes to complexity, okay? So after that, when we separate the skins from the wine, it goes into still for 2-3 weeks to clean up, basically, because we don't filter here as well. And then it goes and ages into a big 20 hectoliters, big barrel, 20 hectoliters for, I would say, about 12, 13 months. And same thing, is really all our wines are basically made the same way. The only thing that changes is the aging in the wood, that, like for the white, for instance, I didn't mention, is about 6 to 8 months. Here it's longer, and but otherwise it's basically the same process. We can taste.
Try.
Okay, Alex, I'll let you tell me what you think here.
Let's see.
I'm smelling herbs in this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that you say that, Sheila, because I think this herbs is kind of into every Maliosa wine in a way, more or less. You can kind of sense it in all our wines.
So it's a theme that goes across all your wines.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think also berries, definitely.
So Antonella, you macerate, I think, for a month.
Yeah, it can be a month or even more, it really depending. It's not like a set thing. When it really depends, you know, the grape that entered the cellar. I would say in the white, we go from 3-4 weeks. In the reds, we can go 4 to 6. Maybe the Sangiovese takes a little bit longer because we do the svinatura. How you say svinatura in English, Sheila? That's always a question for me. When you separate the liquid from the skins after the fermentation, how did you say that?
That's not the pressing, is it?
No, pressing is when you do the svinatura, you take out, of course, the skins and you press them to get more liquid out. Yes, that's anyway.
I'm sure
we'll study more,
racking
more next time.
Racking? Racking, okay.
Okay.
We're learning a lot of translation.
I know. Thank you.
And what's a dish that you like to eat with this wine?
Okay, this wine is the main wine that we use for tastings here in the wine tours at La Maliosa. And we use this wine because we think it's very easy drinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice to have it with an aperitivo, like also, you know, with the Tuscan bruschette,
mm-hmm.
all kinds of crostini.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you don't have to be an expert in order to appreciate this wine, I think. And so it's very, very, very easy to, even if it's just a tasting, or maybe to use it, for instance, in the summer, I think is also very good to drink fresh with fish.
So you would actually chill the wine.
Yes.
And serve it at a cooler temperature.
Definitely.
Okay.
Because also the tannins are soft, for instance,
mm-hmm.
and it goes very well with fish in the summer. I wouldn't pair it with very, you know, typical Tuscan grilled meat. I
mm-hmm.
wouldn't. I think it's not so has not so much body that you can pair it with that. Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
So we do have a question. The question is from Kathleen, and she wants to know that since you macerate for a month with this wine, does it go into second fermentation? In other words, a malolactic fermentation. Does that happen naturally?
Okay, here is very hot here. It can be very, very hot in the summer. So most of the malolactic really takes place in the vineyard. Most of the time, the malolactic is taking place in the vineyard. So for us is not an element that really is taken into account during the fermentation at all. For some varieties, for instance, maybe the Sangiovese, then we know after a few months in the cellar, there is a time when there is some malolactic fermentation going on. But for sure, not this wine usually is not something, no.
Okay.
Because the malic acid is really basically, I don't know the technical term in English, but it's basically burned in the grape, within the grape. So that's why about this, I would like to say it's very important for us. The time of harvest is very, very critical.
Why is that?
Also because we need to take into account not just the sugar, but, you know, since we're not doing anything in the cellar, also mm-hmm. not just mm-hmm. additives or sulfites, but also we don't use any technology at all. And so the levels of acidity or the malolactic, all of this is something that we need to take into account happening in the vineyard. So it's really critical that we pick at the right time.
And how do you determine when it's the right time?
By tasting. Well, of course, we measure the sugar.
Okay.
But a lot of all our work actually at the time of harvest, but also in the cellar, is based on tasting. So for me, I would say one of the great lessons I learned from Professor Lorenzo Carino was how to taste, taste in the vineyard, to taste and to understand when is the right time. to pick. And also, you know, when you do the regular tasting in the cellar, because this is really 90%, I would say, of when the wine you're making. So it's critical to be able to taste. This is really, and it's also something that you train over time. I mean, you can't just, you know.
It's not something you learn from one day to the
No,
next. It's a skill that you develop over
yes,
the years.
And also one other thing that I learned is that you need to become the main expert of your wines. I don't need to be an expert of the world of wine, but I need to be an expert of my wines. I need to know very well the vineyard. I need to know very well what happens at that time of the year in that vineyard, what happens with that variety in a vineyard or in another vineyard for the same variety, and how they behave in the cellar. So I need to know very well. Yeah.
That sounds really challenging to decide to make wines and produce wines in this way, to be organic, biodynamic, and to make natural wines. It sounds like maybe in the conventional way, in some ways it's a little bit easier because they also use some technology, things like that.
Totally.
So tell me, so you've chosen the harder path.
Yes, I didn't really know it was so hard when I chose it.
I think a lot of us would say that.
To tell the truth.
We didn't know it was going to be so hard when we chose the path we did.
No.
So tell me why. What was your motivation to make wine in this, we can say, more challenging way?
Because for me, it was important to be able to do something in a healthier way. For me, the concept of healthiness was very important. Mm-hmm. And also to be able to do this as like being the first one to do it here, for me was important, because it was also a way to show, you know, this area, that it's possible to do things in a different way. And in this way, you are also helping, you know, you're helping your environment, you're helping the people. The workers that are working in my vineyard, they are not subjected to an unhealthy environment. This is also very important to me. And I think, you know, basically this, to be able to produce something authentic and healthy. That's it, basically.
Excellent. I really appreciate that goes beyond just the product, but that you also extend that to your workers. And you told me something really interesting when we were chatting at Vin Italy about people who work in the vineyards being one of the groups of people who have the highest rates of cancer, actually.
Well, of professional diseases, and not maybe not necessarily cancer, I would say, but it's quite an unhealthy environment, because a lot of chemical stuff is used in the vineyards, and maybe people are not very aware of that, and some, not all of it, but some of it may stay in the wine. It may, depending on what you're using. And besides that, I mean, besides the consumer, I think if you are living in a beautiful place in nature, you know, and everything is so pure, then you need to be able to take that into your bottle. You shouldn't do something to, you know, ruin that in a way. You need to be able to put it in your bottle.
I like that. Well, speaking about bottles, let's try the next wine, Rosso.
Yes. So I take 2 more glasses.
Okay. Excellent.
And there was just a comment that Helen made about the Albarello. And Helen, you can feel free to unmute yourself. But basically, she was saying that Albarello is typically used in places where there are harsh conditions. She mentioned Sardinia and Puglia, which also can be hot and windy.
And I was just saying, you know, head pruning low like that is really good to protect from wind, which is, you know, when the Mistral or the Scirocco breezes blow up in the Med, you know, you get a lot of that on the islands. But the method of viticulture, that type of pruning, is recognized by UNESCO World Heritage. And it's been given the, I was just reading about this recently. It's been given the status of a UNESCO practice, farming practice, which is really great when these methods are protected. And it especially was common on Pantelleria and in the Maremma, where, you know, it can get really windy. So
yeah, I can absolutely testify to those winds. I was just visiting the vineyards before our call today, and it's quite windy. And they were confirming that it's usually windy here throughout the year. Correct?
Yes. And it's very dry and can be very windy. In fact, a couple of days ago, we had we had winds of above 90 kilometers an hour, and some trees fell. That can happen any time of year, even during the summer. So yes, actually.
Do your vines get any higher than, say, 2 or 3 feet? I'm not sure.
Well, my vineyards that are planted in the Albarello training system, they are still quite young. So they're still quite low, but we are training them to remain low, I would say, even when they maybe will reach 10, 12 years, which the mature time. I would say will not maybe 50 centimeters, not more. So yeah, actually, you know, it's funny what you say, because today we published a photo on our Instagram. If you want, you can go look at it. Where I say this because it was quite funny. You can actually see herbs, and you cannot see the vine, because of course the vine is lower down, and we are
great.
You see, so and we are at that time of year where the sprout is still very short, just came out, and so you cannot actually see the vine. And we got a comment, you can see the comment under that photo, somebody asking, I don't see any vineyard. Where is this vineyard, you know?
That's it.
So it's quite an unusual sight, I would say.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this wine we're tasting. What's in La Maliosa Rosso?
La Maliosa Rosso. Okay, La Maliosa Rosso, I would say, is our most traditional red wine, because it's made with Ciliegiolo grape. And Ciliegiolo is really the history of Maremma in a red variety. So we have in the white, the history of Maremma is with Procanico, and in the red, it's with the Ciliegiolo. Ciliegiolo was actually one of the ancestors of Sangiovese. This was established by DNA a few years ago, quite recently. And like the name says in Italian, Ciliegiolo means like little cherry. So it's a grape that expresses a lot of, you know, red fruit, like a cherry, but also basically fruit, red fruit. It's a wine that you need to wait a little bit for it in the glass. You really, can you already tell how much it's changed since we poured it?
Yes.
It's like another world. It's like another world. So it's not really a wine that is ready right away. It's like the Saturnia is ready right away. You pour it and you drink it. This wine, you really need to wait, I would say, maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes. And then it starts, you know, to express the variety, but you need to wait for it a little bit. So one thing about this wine is a little bit wild. It's like Maremma, okay? It's not your orderly, neat, perfect wine. The tannins are a little bit, you know, going all over the place. And, but I think it's really a perfect witness to this place. That is not your perfect postcard Tuscany.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you need to accept it this way. It maybe, I would say, I can understand how maybe for some people it's too much. It's quite a powerful wine. Usually we get alcohol from, I would say, it can happen to even have 14 to 15% alcohol. Has a lot of sugar, so it gets a lot of alcohol. This is a grape that you need to cultivate on very poor soils. If you cultivate Ciliegiolo on very rich soil and you irrigate, you will get huge bunches with zero acidity, a lot of sugar, and really not so interesting to make wine. So you really need to choose poor soils, no irrigation, very dry, maybe also windy like we have here. So they get mistreated a little bit. And then you can get your smaller bunches with a thick skin, which is what we're looking for in order to get more complexity and to keep the acidity, which this grape tends to lose if you, you know, cultivate in the rich soil and give it a lot of water.
So you have to mistreat it a little bit.
You have to mistreat it, definitely.
No, I really like this one. And I like the idea that it's kind of like Maremma in a bottle, because it is wild and it takes you on a ride all over the place. Yeah.
And it's very persistent in your mouth. Can you?
Yes, it just keeps going
forever.
Keep going, and different flavors come out and taste.
And also in this wine, after it's there a little bit in the glass, then the botanical starts to come out.
Absolutely.
This one I could see pairing with the Fiorentina.
Yes, this would be perfect for the Ciliegiolo. It's perfect, I think, with the Fiorentina. Yeah.
I'm still tasting the
it just keeps going and going. Yeah. It would be perfect with a nice big steak. So tell us a little bit, we've talked about the past and we talked about when you started La Maliosa. And now let's look forward to the future a little bit. What's your vision going forward?
Okay, so we, I think La Maliosa has the advantage of being new. I feel this is a very big advantage for us because by being new, we don't need to be tied to anything that was done in a certain way. And I think this is helping us evolve and being very in touch with evolving times. Like I think we live now in a time where things are changing so fast all the time. And we need to be able to adapt quickly and also not be afraid to do something different or new, try out things. Maybe some won't work, it's okay. We try other things, okay? And I think this is helping us quite a lot in developing our wine tour sector, I would say, because we are, I think, offering unusual experience not just your typical tasting, and that's it, which is also quite unusual for the Maremma. I would say we're practically the only winery that is doing different things in the farm and doing different things all the time. Like, for instance, we are doing tastings, horse riding tours and tastings, e-bike tours and tastings. We are having this Stars Box project, which is the only one in Tuscany, where we have these little houses where you can stay there and have a picnic, and then you can open the roof and like have a, we have a spectacular starry sky here, and then you can be there and do the tasting and stay there at night and enjoy this spectacular sky. Because one thing about this place is one of the darkest in Italy, because of it's very, you know, little populated. The population in Maremma, they told me, is almost like Siberia, meaning there is very, very few people around. This gives you the opportunity to really watch the sky in a way that you are not able to anymore in most of the Western world, I would say. And they tell me that there are hobby astronomers that are coming to the Maremma in the summer to do like, when people show up, like, what do you call that? They do
like a pilgrimage.
Well, they have these meetings in these far away fields in the middle of nowhere where they do observations, you know.
Like an astronomer conference.
Like astronomers meetings, you know, in fields, that secret meetings. So I thought that quite funny, but this just to tell you that the Stars Box project is really, was a huge success because it gives the opportunity to really everybody to experience this in a very comfortable way. And also we provide, of course, picnic and to have a very, we have also very nice sunsets. So all these activities, we try out things, and we use all the technology that is available. And I think this is giving us actually an advantage.
Absolutely. I love that adventurous spirit where you're willing to try new things that other people aren't doing and just give it a shot and see if it works or not. And I love how you're tying your background of tourism into your current position in the winery and really bringing those together into the tourism. And I have to say, I got to see the Stars Box today, and they're just fantastic. It's what you dreamed of as a kid. It's the treehouse that you wanted. They're these little boxes, and so you can lay in bed in the box, and the top opens up, and so you can stargaze in bed under the cover, comfy and cozy, and see these just amazing skies that they have here in Maremma, which Antonella was saying, they're some of the best skies in Italy. So truly an off the beaten path in a very literal sense activity, and something well worth doing if you find yourself in the Maremma. So yeah, I really applaud those efforts. Really fantastic. Yes.
So you're all invited, basically.
Yes.
Come here.
Come try wine. Stay in the Stars Box.
Drink natural wine and enjoy the nature. You know.
Yes, exactly. So on that note, let's try the final wine, the Tarconte.
Give me your glass.
So Antonella is just grabbing 2 new glasses for us, and then we will try the Tarconte, which I can see that Sheila has there as well.
Mm-hmm. I have the wine as well, and it's the first time I'm tasting it, and it's phenomenal. Tannins are blowing me away, and the color, and it's just the cherry that you get in it, the earthiness, but yet it's clean, it's refined. This for me is you know, it's I love Sangiovese. So, you know, it's such a different expression, but it's incredibly well made. Really good, Antonella. It's the first time I'm trying it. It's amazing.
Thank you, Helen. I'm really, really pleased you're saying that, you know, because this is a very, very particular expression of Sangiovese, because it's a volcanic Sangiovese. Actually is, I think, one of the very, very few examples of Sangiovese made from volcanic soil. So we need to understand that here in Tuscany, Sangiovese is not available on volcanic soil because there's no volcanic soil in the appellations of Sangiovese anywhere in Tuscany. The only volcanic area is very close to us near the village of Pitigliano, where we have this 35-year-old vineyard that I was speaking about. It's made of whites and also reds. And in the reds, we have this Sangiovese. And it took us, meaning me and Lorenzo, a few years to study this Sangiovese from volcanic soil, because we started out with this vineyard in 2016. And we also, for us, it was our first experience of Sangiovese cultivated on volcanic soil. So at first, you know, we for a couple of years, we tried out just small batches to see what would happen, not to blend it with the Sangiovese coming from the rest of the farm, which is not on volcanic soil, is on regular, you know, clay and calcareous like we have in the rest of the farm. And in the end, we decided we needed to make a volcanic Sangiovese, 100% from volcanic, because we get in this way an expression of the Sangiovese which is more easy drinking, and also with a lot of minerality, which usually is not in the Sangiovese, this kind of quality. And also the volcanic soil is a soil that makes wine evolve faster. So we get this wine that stays in the cellar only for a couple of years. Usually, you know, if you think of the big appellations of the Sangiovese, they need more years to mature in the cellar, like 4 or 5 years. How long is the Brunello? You are an expert. It's quite a few years, right? But the volcanic soil makes wines evolve faster. So we get this expression that is actually, I think of this wine like happy wine. Is a happier wine. It doesn't need to show off, you know, but as a very approachable expression of Sangiovese.
How many bottles do you make of this?
Of this wine, I think we're around 4,000 or 5,000 bottles.
Although the 2017, which is what we have, was much less, right?
We here in the farm we have the 2019. You are drinking the 2017.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the 2019, is it coming to the US?
Not right now. No, we just have the 2017.
But I have to say, Sheila, the 17, the tannins are so expressive and lively that, I mean, I had to look again at the vintage because it's so fresh as well. So I'm really pleased with this wine. It's like I said, it's the first time I'm trying it. So
It's incredible.
Yeah.
How you can,
So we have some questions from Brendan about that have to do with wines like yours, Antonella, where you don't add sulfites. So he'd like to know how they evolve, whether they evolve faster or slower, and also would they be a wine that you would recommend or not to a restaurant that's pouring by the glass?
okay,
So they would have their wine open for a while.
Yes, this is kind of a typical question that we get for natural wine. I think we cannot make a general statement. It's not correct to make a general statement because I think natural wines are very vintage specific, a lot more than conventional wines. So I would say that it really depends on your vintage. If it's a good vintage, I would say that natural wines actually probably have better aging potential than conventional wines because of their potential. You know, they're alive, so they still evolve all the time. In some vintages, but I think this can be general, you know, for all wines, except we're not manipulating anything in the cellar. If it's not a great vintage, which happens, of course, once in a while, then they have less potential. And I think it's perfectly fair and normal. And we just need to be aware of that. What we do when vintages are not great, we make more of the blend, and it will not go into our 100% wines from the single variety, like the wines you're drinking now, like the Rosso and the Tarconte. For instance, we didn't make Tarconte in 2018, since we are speaking of Sangiovese.
Okay. Well, if you have, if anyone has any other questions, just you can feel free to even unmute yourself. This is delicious, though. So a weight and texture that's undescribable.
So yeah, I do have another question. Sort of geologically, where Antonella, where your farm, your vineyards are, you have volcanic soil and you have limestone. How did that happen? What
Yes,
millions of years ago?
that happened. Okay, the original land that I bought here in the near Saturnia, yeah, is what you get basically around here, which is the clay with the calcareous rocky. What happened is while I started the project with Lorenzo Carino, at one point we realized we were very, very close to a place like only 15 kilometers from here, a very big area of volcanic soil. This is something we realized after a couple of years. And of course, it's great for whites. Everybody knows how volcanic is great for white wine. And so since I still needed to plant some hectares, all the new implants after 2016 were done on volcanic. And also I was lucky because the father of one of my workers has this 35-year-old vineyard. that we were allowed to manage since 2016. And it has all these native varieties and a very, very interesting vineyard of Sangiovese and Procanico both, which of course was very interesting for us because also the age of the vineyard. So is the volcanic soil, and this allowed us, I think, to go one step further as far as the expression, you know, of the wines, and also is unique as it's something very unique for this part of Tuscany. It's something that you don't have in any other area in Tuscany. Volcanic soil is only specific to this area.
No.
We were not even aware. I mean, it's so close, but nobody, it's like there is collective removal, you know, even from the locals, that we are very close to a volcanic area with amazing potential.
And are there, were the vignerons of old aware of it? Is it recorded anywhere? Were people documenting, you know, indigenous varietals and soil types in the Maremma?
In the past, no, that there were this volcanic soil.
Yes, maybe they knew, but I think they didn't realize how this was a huge advantage as far as producing wine. They didn't, you know, connect the fact I have volcanic. It's very interesting because, you know, this area always produced grapes for very big producers that made the wine somewhere else, always sold grapes and didn't make wine here. Like we have very, very big investments in this volcanic area close to us from, for instance, Antinori and other big producers from other parts of Italy, like Tommasi, you know, huge producers that make millions of bottles. And of course, they understand the great potential of producing on volcanic. And the land here costs a lot less that you go buy like on Etna volcanic, you know, it costs like 1/20th probably. And so they were able to buy huge lots of land, produce on volcanic, very high quality grapes. But then what happened? They take the grape and go produce it in the Chianti or whatever, you know. So it's never Maremma making wine. It's always other parts of Tuscany using the grapes to make their own wine with another appellation. Okay. So this is why the locals didn't really understand what they had in their hands, I think.
Does the presence of Tommasi, Antinori, etc., in any way threaten the more rustic, wild nature of the place? Do you worry about that?
Well, they have these huge vineyards, you know, that are completely mechanically managed. I think the main damage is not even to the environment, but to the fact that you're not allowing local people to grow in their culture about making wine. Because they are managing these huge vineyards with maybe just a few tractors and maybe 3 workers, and all they do is sit on their tractor all day long, and they're not really learning anything about wine. They have no idea. They're completely disconnected. So I think the main damage is cultural.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the main damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
But thank you for asking, because I think this is a main point about Maremma, which is not yet growing so much as a wine producing area, and is one of the problems.
Yeah, it's something that I've certainly learned from this exchange, and I appreciate that very much. So I want to go.
We're totally waiting for you. Come visit.
Antonella, Brendan is our distributor in Maine, so it's where your wines and olive oils were just delivered.
Fantastic.
So you need to
his
come.
colleagues, yeah.
I also want to come to Maine. I've always wanted all my life to visit Maine. I'm serious.
Well,
because
what are you
seafood.
What are you waiting for? Come on.
And I read the books of Stephen King.
Oh.
And and I've always wondered, what's wrong with Maine? What's happening there,
Well, if you like oysters.
He's actually a very good man. He does a lot for the state, actually. Thankfully, all of his writing is fiction. But he's actually a very, very good man. He lives about 2.5 hours from where I am right now. Yeah.
But I'm actually really very interested about Maine. I mean, I've really wondered about Maine all my life. It must be some kind of, interesting place to visit.
Well, I think
you're not supposed to tell anybody, Brendan.
I know. I think, seriously, Antonella, I think there's some kind of connection. Maine still has a lot of wild land too. And there's certainly a free spirit here, at times defiant, in a healthy way. And so I'm already seeing that your wines are being very well received. I'm not surprised.
This is great news.
Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll make some kind of an exchange. We'll figure out.
Great.
Well, we're due to taste some olive oil, but I think we kind of are over time. So we'll have to organize another.
And she needs to drive back to Montalcino. Okay, so.
Yeah. But Alex is tasting the latest vintages, the latest harvests of the olive oil, which we're getting also in this shipment that's going to arrive next month. So stay tuned, and with Alex's collaboration, we'll also be coming out with a couple of articles about her visit to Antonella and Saturnia and the whole general area. So make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, and we'll keep sending you interesting articles.
Yes.
So if you have anyone have any questions, or we'll just say ching. Cheers, everyone. And thank you so much, Antonella and Alex. And happy Earth Month, happy Earth Day.
Excellent. Thank you all for joining us this evening, today.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
We're going to bed.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.